What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. They just wrapped up Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant for Undisputed at super middleweight 168. Canelo Alvarez scores the 11th round TKO over Caleb Plant. And, you know, I'll say that there were a few rounds that were interesting, that were kind of in the balance. A few rounds you could even score for Caleb Plant. I thought that Caleb Plant won maybe 3 rounds out of the first 10. Again, the stoppage came in the 11th. But let's really think about what just took place here. I mean, Canelo Alvarez, for one, improves to 57 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. He holds all 4 belts at 168. And keep in mind, less than a year ago, literally less than a year ago, he starts the campaign at 168, and he says that he wants to try to unify all 4 belts in the division. Now, at this time, he has none of the belts. It wasn't until he fought Callum Smith, and then that kind of got things started. He won the WBA and the WBC belt, which was vacated by David Benavidez when he missed weight before his fight against Romer Angulo. So Canelo wins 2 of the 4 belts. Then he beats Avni Yildirim a couple months later. Then a couple months later, in May, he beats Billy Joe Saunders for the WBO belt. And now he beats Caleb Plant, stops Caleb Plant for the IBF belt. Now, aside from his win against Callum Smith, which he won via decision, everything else at 168, including his one fight a couple years ago against Rocky Fielding. So Rocky Fielding, Callum Smith was a decision win. Avni Yildirim stopped him. Billy Joe Saunders stopped him. And now Caleb Plant stopped him. And this is pretty damn incredible. This is somebody who used to campaign at 147, knocking out Carlos Baldomir. And, you know, say what you want about Canelo Alvarez. Here's what I know. I know that before fighting Canelo, Callum Smith had a 0 in the loss column and was a champion, undefeated WBA champion. 0 in the loss column. Canelo handed him his first. Billy Joe Saunders was undefeated at the time. Handed Billy Joe Saunders his 1 and only loss. Same thing with Caleb Plant. Undefeated fighter, 0 in the loss column. Canelo Alvarez delivers him his first loss. And again, it came via knockout. And I mean, what can you say about the guy? I mean, he basically declared, said what he was going to do. I'm thinking, okay, well, you got some work to do. And what, within 1 calendar year, thank you, just knocking off the 168 champions who, before Canelo came into the division, these guys weren't fighting each other. You had like 4 islands of champions. You had the Callum Smith, David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, and none of these guys were fighting each other. Well, Canelo just changed all that. He just fought all of them, except for David Benavidez, took all of their belts, and he's the man at 168. And it all happened within a calendar year. Unbelievable. And you know what? I've been listening to like Richard Dwyer for years. Online boxing analyst Richard Dwyer referencing Canelo Alvarez's slow feet, cardio, stamina issues. Well, you know, in all of these high-profile Canelo fights that I'm seeing him in that go any sort of distance, there's only one guy in like the 9th and 10th round who still looks like he's trying to kill the other guy, throwing combinations and hard power punches, and it's Canelo Alvarez in all of these fights. So what are we talking about here? Or better yet, how do you beat this guy? Now, I'm not saying that the guy's unbeatable, but there is something to be said about somebody who is going to be fighting hard and smart and throwing hard punches through the entire duration of a 12-round fight. Like, Caleb Plant was, you know, fighting a spirited fight. Again, I thought that he might have won a couple rounds. He was trying to sit down on his punches and actually trying to deliver some punishment to Canelo. Now, I thought there were certain things Canelo did to take away Caleb Plant's, you know, hard signature left hook. If anything, Caleb Plant was scoring more with the rolling with the shoulder, and my brother Billy pointed this out. He was doing the shoulder roll and actually coming with some effective counter right hand. So Caleb Plant's right hand was scoring, I thought, more effectively than his left hook, and he was sticking the jab out there. He stopped throwing it, with authority later on, or at least stopped throwing it more frequently as the rounds continued, and you saw him start to wilt. You saw him start to slow down. You saw him stop moving, or when he was moving, it wasn't always purposeful moving. It looked like it was that kind of buy some time and just get out of dodge type of moving. But, he would have the occasional moment where he, hits Canelo and rocks his head back. And because Canelo's been so dominant, especially in recent years, I mean, for a long time, but we're talking the 168 campaign, he's been so dominant that anytime we see Canelo get tagged cleanly, it's like, oh, damn, Canelo just got hit. Well, again, it's not like you're fighting somebody who's only going to bring the pain for 6 rounds. This guy has been bringing the pain because he has somewhat of a measured pace. He's not wasting punches. He's really making everything count. And when he has you hurt, he doesn't waste any time in finishing you. Did you see how quickly he was on Caleb Plant's ass after he knocked him down the first time? He ran across the ring. He cut the ring off. He did like that, Barry Sanders, Gale Sayers type of step where you step wide, cut the ring off. Now he's got Caleb Plant pinned, and then he just throws his, deadly power punches, pretty much finishes the job right then and there. I mean, fighting Canelo Alvarez is just a tall order. And so, going forward, whether he fights David Benavidez and sticks around at 168 for another fight, or whether somehow Jamal Charlo gets an opportunity. I don't expect Jamal Charlo to be the next, Jamal Charlo needs to unify something at 160. That's what I think. That's what I feel Jamal Charlo needs to do. He needs to fight Demetrius Andrade or fight Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Now, Triple G is about to fight Ryota Murata, and that is a unification fight of sorts. It is a unification fight, but it's not the fight that people wanted to see Triple G in. But anyway, 160 division, that's a whole nother discussion. 160, they look as unwilling to fight each other as champs ever since Canelo left the division. They look as bad as the 168 pound champions looked before Canelo got to that division and cleaned house. So, yeah, I don't want to hear anything about Canelo ducking fighters. He is just kind of on his own mission. So the question is, if he sticks around and fights the boogeyman of the division, David Benavidez, or if he goes up to 175 and tries to challenge Artur Beterbiev, who has a fight coming up against Marcus Brown. Should be interesting, especially because Beterbiev is getting up there in age. He's, beyond his mid-30s now, so his time is ticking. Dimitri Bivol, didn't look great in his last fight. So we'll see what Canelo does going forward, but look, I'm one person who thought that in those 2 fights with Triple G, I thought that, the first one should have been a Triple G via decision. I thought the second one could have gone either way, but they were both competitive fights. And I thought that Canelo Alvarez overachieved based on my expectation when Canelo came into the 160-pound division, not even 168, the 160-pound division. I would have never thought that he would have that type of success against Triple G, even if you thought he lost that first fight. But damn, like this fight versus Caleb Plant, when they first were like in the ring, early seconds of the first round, you saw how much bigger Caleb Plant appeared than Canelo. But you look at Canelo with his high guard and the way that he closes range and the way that he does different feints to be able to get his power punches off. Caleb Plant was doing what he could. He might have hung around a little too much in some of the exchanges where his back is against. Like, you do not need your back against the ropes when you're fighting Canelo Alvarez. You need to do anything you can to keep stuff in the middle of the ring. And even if you keep things in the middle of the ring, there's still no guarantee that Canelo's not going to take your eye socket out. You know what I mean? That he's not going to just destroy you to the head and to the body. And, Canelo, like we expected, invested to the body early. I mean, my call was late stoppage. I'm sure a lot of people's call was prediction was Canelo Alvarez via late stoppage. Maybe some people thought that he was going to blow him out early. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but I thought that, you could only take so much before Canelo's punches start damaging the structural integrity of your face and body. And, I did think that cut under Caleb Plant's eye was going to be an issue. How could it not be? If it cut in a slap boxing fight in a press conference, what makes you think that it's not going to reopen when Canelo's just lacing you with power punches? So, Caleb Plant did what he could. He fought a spirited fight. He's a very good fighter. He probably beats, I think that he would probably beat Callum Smith, for instance, even though Callum Smith is now up at 175. But people might just kind of scoff at at what they perceive the level of 168-pound champion to have been with Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, who was really a blown-up 160, and then Caleb Plant. A lot of people didn't really give them a lot of respect, and therefore still are withholding respect on Canelo's name. But, I mean, come on. I mean, the guy just, again, in one calendar year, just unified, undisputed champion in the division. So, yeah, we'll see what the future holds for Canelo, but, I mean, he just came in and he wrecked shop. And this was such a, you know, high-profile and intense fight. You know, people talk about the type of pressure that Canelo's opponents are bringing into the fight. You know, just the pressure to perform, the pressure under the bright lights. You're going against, you know, the biggest star in boxing and so forth. What about the pressure that Canelo feels fight over fight over fight, just given the expectations? If you are the A side who's supposed to be taking everybody out, and you in fact start doing that and continue to do that, you really have to, you know, praise the guy for being that driven and finding something to continue to fuel his willingness to just give boxing his all. And that's obviously what he's done up to this point. I mean, damn, Canelo is a bad boy. And I mean, we'll see, again, what his next move is. Look, I would love for him to stick around for one more fight, just to clear house, because you can make the argument that David Benavidez never lost. He's a two-time WBC champion, not once lost his title on the scale. And that's no fault of Canelo's. It's David Benavidez's fault that he was, you know, doing recreational drugs and got stripped of his title the first time and didn't make weight and got stripped of his title the second time. But if you just want to leave no doubt, I mean, you just made a fight with PBC for this Caleb Plant fight. Why not just do one more if David Benavidez beats Kyron Davis next week? You know, maybe just one more fight at 168 before you go up to 175, or if you want to fight Jamal Charlo after that. But, I mean, damn, you know, look, I got nothing but respect for the way that Canelo has conducted his business, because it looked like he wasn't going to return to the ring for a while when he was undergoing the legal hardships with Golden Boy in the zone. And all of a sudden, they scheduled the Callum Smith fight. And again, we just got boom, 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 taking one belt after the other, even satisfied a mandatory challenger and just took out Avni Yildirim. I mean, for all these other divisions and all these other boxers, whether they're champions or contenders, who are kind of just, you know, just avoiding fighting the difficult fights and fighting the fights that matter, you wonder why Canelo Alvarez is topping the pound-for-pound list. It's because he is on a mission to prove that he's the absolute best in the game. And I just want to see some of these fighters in other divisions essentially do the same. I get it. There are a lot of promotional reasons why certain things don't happen, but find a way to make it happen. But yeah, let me know what you thought about Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant. Again, when you start handing several fighters their one and only loss, I mean, those ones that I named at 168, Triple G didn't have any losses before he started messing with Canelo. And again, very disputed fights, but he did hand Triple G his only official loss, okay? But yeah, please leave your comments in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.